Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is 4 Paws in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Today I have a book haul for you. So I did some damage. After only spending a small amount of money on books last month, I then purchased books this month. It's fine. Don't worry about it. First off, let's talk about our TBR tackle number. We ended September with 254 physical unread books, which is a lot. I went back and watched my end of year goals, or like my 2022 goals, and it said something about getting the books under 200, and I just don't know that that's going to happen. I am going to do an unhaul later this month, but I don't know that I can drop that number. 50 plus books. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I'm reading a lot here in November. I've done really well so far, but I don't know that it will be enough. So let's talk about it though, because we did a really good job getting down our books in October. So that's fantastic. These are all of the books that were on my TBR prior to September, and I read in the month of October. So that is 12 books, which puts our number back down to 242. Don't worry, though. I have 20 books to talk to you about. I don't have this split up in, too much of an organization. Part of this is, projects that I have that I, will be reading these shortly. Part of them are books that I've already read. We've got some book boxes. We're just going to go into it. Let's start with the books that I've already read, because those won't add to that 242 number. I purchased another copy of Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. The reason I did this was because I wanted a copy of Bloodmarked, or I pre-ordered a copy of Bloodmarked, and my original copy of Legendborn was the Book of the Month book. And I figured, because Book of the Month doesn't normally do sequels, that I wouldn't be able to get a copy. However, then Book of the Month did decide to do a Bloodmarked copy. So I could have just kept it, but I wasn't sure. I already sold my Book of the Month copy on Pango, so it's not like I have 2 copies of this book sitting around. But my pre-order is coming. It will be here this week. Okay, I also read Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. This is a MILF book. The good news, she likes someone. The bad news, it's her best friend's mom. That's the tagline of this book. This was really good. I gave it 4.5 stars and highly recommend it. And then I also picked up and read Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. I've talked about this book a lot, so I'm not going to continue talking about it, but it's essentially like an IKEA catalog. It's about these retail employees that get stuck in their version of IKEA the whole night because something suspicious is happening. It was a good time. Also gave that one 4.5 stars. Next up, let's talk about the subscription boxes. I have 2 boxes to talk to you about. I obviously have my Book of the Month book, and then I also have Aardvark Book Club, which is a new book subscription box that ships to the US and Canada, and they sent me a box this month, so I wanted to talk to you about it. I will leave the information and the link down below for them. They're great. It's essentially the same thing as Book of the Month. You get to pick your from a selection. They have different genres and things like that, and it's not a book box where you get all the extra stuff as well. I know nothing about the books that I got from Aardvark. They're not necessarily genres that I read from, but here they are. We're gonna try them out anyways. We have The House in the Orchard by Elizabeth Brooks. I think this is a literary fiction. Historical fiction. When a World War II widow inherits a dilapidated English estate, she uncovers a diary written by an adolescent girl named Maud Gower. Looking for answers, she begins reading, only to unravel more questions about the mysterious past and many secrets hidden deep within the walls of Orchard House. So it's historical fiction. That sounds interesting. But I haven't read it, so we're adding it to our number, so we're at 243. Then we have The Marsh Queen by Virginia Hartman. This is a thriller, ? The swamps of northern Florida thrum with life, the elegant splashing of the great blue heron, the stealthy glide of the cottonmouth snake, the whispering of the marsh grass. But Leonie Morrow has a life in Washington, D.C. and would rather not come back to these waters and the secrets they hold. So, here we are. 244. Okay, and then the third one they sent me, so originally they were only going to send me those two, and then Aardvark had a little bit of a shipping delay, and so they didn't get shipped out until the second half of the month, and so they sent everybody a third book, so we also got The Night Ship by Jess Kidd. This is also a historical fiction, but like a historical fantasy, maybe, question mark, based on a real-life event, an epic historical novel from an award-winning author, Jess Kidd. One shipwreck, two misfits, 3 centuries apart. 1629 and 1989. But there's a mythical monster, so that's where the fantasy aspect of it comes in. So this one was actually on my radar, and so because I didn't think I was getting it, I actually purchased another copy of it because I wanted the one that had like the sprayed edges. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and so I will actually probably be gifting this or passing it along or putting it on Pango. I don't know, we'll be doing something with it, so I'm only counting this once, obviously. Alright, and then for book of the month, I got 3 books. I've already read one of them, and that was The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. This is the sequel to The Ex-Hex, and it is like set in this little tiny Halloween town. It's kind of a witchy romance. This is a somewhat rivals to lovers. He comes back from Wales to this town, and he sets up this little magic shop across the street from a woman who already has a magic shop. And so there's a little bit of rivals to lovers. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This isn't my favorite. I liked The Ex-Hex better, but it's still like a fun time, and it's definitely like a fall witchy read, and I like. And then the 2 that I haven't read, I'm actually really excited to read this one because I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and that's Sign Here by Claudia Lux. And this is about a man who works in hell, and he is trying to like make a deal with a family on Earth so that he can get a promotion in hell. And it just sounds very Lucifer to me, and I love that. So this will be a book that I'll be reading. Well, I really wanted to read it during spooky season, and I didn't get around to it. So we'll see what happens. I've heard that it's like kind of darker, and so we might still even like be able to do it during the winter. And then the last book of the month book that I got is also like an atmospheric witchy book, and that is Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. This is about a woman who comes back to her hometown, and it's this quiet, atmospheric kind of witchy town. She runs a tea shop, and then I think there's like a murder mystery, maybe, an unsolved murder, and then like deep ancestral magic. So this one definitely like is going to be a book for the vibes, that's for sure. Another one I did not read in October that I wanted to. So that's back to 247. That kind of leads us into the books that I purchased for no apparent reason. Here is the reason, actually. I was on a lot of reading sprints in October. I was like participating, not hosting, but participating in Halloween Weekend that was run by Books with Lexi. And so everyone was talking about a lot of spooky books, right? There were so many different reading vlogs and things like that. So I'm very excited about all the spooky books. And I thought, you know, me and my dumb brain was like, I will read all of these before spooky season is over. And I did not. At all. Okay? So let's talk about those. Because I have 5 books that I was like, yes, I'm going to read these before spooky season, and I didn't. Okay, we have From Below by Darcy Coates. Everyone's reading Darcy Coates right now. This one I still might pick up, like, before the end of the year, like, while we're still kind of sort of in the spooky season, because everyone's talking about Darcy Coates right now. This was a book that Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy read in a, like, themed reading vlog, and this book hit, like, all of the buzzwords for me, so I immediately picked this one up. Also, the cover is just stunning, but this is, like, an underwater horror with a dive team trying to find, like, a shipwreck, I think, and then it goes back and forth between, like, the actual shipwreck and the diving team. So I'm sure I'm gonna love this one. This one might actually be for a project that I end up doing, but this is Hollow Kingdom by Kira Jane Buxton. This one's a little bit older, but the sequel of it came out, I think, last year. And this is a dystopian set in Seattle, but it's from the perspective of a crow and a Saint Bernard, which, like, it feels on brand for me, right? I thought it would be fun to do a project, especially like next year when Shotzi has her puppies, to like do a themed vlog about like books with Saint Bernards in it. That might be kind of fun. So we'll see if that happens next year. And then I picked up The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay because Kayla from Books and Lala was talking about it, and this just seems so meta. I mean, the whole book, let's see if I can find like a good page, is like a book within a book. So like the main character is writing this memoir about being in this little club with like a bunch of people that like are the pallbearers for people that don't have them. So he's writing this memoir, and then within the book, the friend is like editing it. So like there's like, you know, notes in the margins where like the whole page of like, I don't remember this happening. This isn't how it actually happened. Man, you should have submitted the paper to the Lit magazine with me as your co-author. That's some good stuff. So, this just seems funny to me in a dark and disturbing way, I guess. That puts us up to 250 books. I also picked up The Weight of Blood because everybody was talking about it. This is a Carrie retelling, and this is by Tiffany D. Jackson. I've heard really good things about this. I've heard that the audiobook is fantastic, and it also deals a lot with racism and classism and stuff like that. So, probably, honestly, will be better than Carrie. I didn't read Carrie, so I wouldn't know. But, if we're looking at the authors, probably. Lastly, I picked up Cackle because Michelle from Michelle's Library read it and really loved it. Like, she finished it on sprints, and so I immediately picked it up. This is like a witchy kind of cozy horror. I got a little bit of buzz last year because it made the Goodreads Choice Awards, but under horror, and it's not really like a spooky horror book, so it didn't do very well. So it's got some really low ratings on it, but I think if I go into it knowing it's not actually a horror, the cozy horror is kind of like my brand. We don't have the like gratuitous gore and blood and like just over the top ridiculousness in the cozy horror quite as much. The last group of books are projects that I have, so I will be reading these sooner rather than later. Some of them will be before December, some of them may not be, but it'll be early into 2023. So, yeah. We have The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. This is a book that Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany has like loved, and so I picked this one up. I like the paperback book of this so much better than the hardcover. This is a book about a family coming back to their hometown after like the matriarch of their family dies, and they are like figuring out their inheritance and like what's in their will, and then they end up with like these special gifts, like powers, I think, that start manifesting, and then someone is also like trying to destroy their family. So seemed interesting. Gonna be reading that for a project. I have The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. This is a like fantasy sci-fi kind of blend. The reason I picked this one up, this isn't something that was originally on my TBR or not really even on my radar. However, I was reading Into the Midnight Void, and I ended up DNFing it, and that was my book for the Weird Ecology for the R Fantasy, and so I was actually on sprints with Cassidy when I DNF'd the book, and so I asked her what would be another good one, and so she recommended this. And so I found it on Pango for like $3. So like, even if I don't like it, it's not a huge loss. Then I picked up The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This is the book that my Patreons picked for me to read in October. I'm going to try to read it in November because I didn't get to it in October. Obviously, it wasn't a spooky book. So I will be reading this one this month. I picked up Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This is a contemporary fiction about a black woman who is a nanny for a white woman, and I think like the cops get called on her because they think that she's kidnapping a woman. I don't know, or kidnapping the child. I'm not really sure, but I know that it talks a lot about like performative activism and like obviously like talk of racism and things like that. This is a book that's been talked about a lot on BookTube, and it will be a project I think later this year. I have my projects booked out like through some of them through like April. So yeah. I have to sometimes think about it. Okay. And then lastly, the last two books that I want to talk about, I am going to be reading all of the books for the self-published fantasy blog off, or SPFBO, or SPIFBO. There's a lot of names for it. I'm doing a project with Cassidy and a bunch of other booktubers and book bloggers where we will be reading them all and then like ranking them based on the same ranking that the judges use to rank them, and then seeing what our ranking is versus like what the actual final ranking is. And we're going to be like doing a whole fun statistical experiment. And if you know anything about me, I really love stats. And so this project just spoke to me, even though some of these fantasy books scare me. But here are two that I'm actually really excited about. So first one is A Song for the Void by Andrew C. Piazza. I think I did talk about these in my most recent vlog, so you're probably like seeing these for a second time. But this is a historical horror with like a pirate ship, and it's like during the Opium Wars. And then lastly, we have A Touch of Light by Thiago Abdallah. This one scares me a little bit, but it is kind of like a classical fantasy, but there's two like factions. One of them worships like life, and like mourning the dead is actually like frowned upon, and you like can't do that. And then the other clan, the other faction is it says that death is all that keeps Earth alive, which I think is kind of cool. I'm not as scared as like I am to read, like when I was to read Malice, because this book is not nearly as big as Malice. I will be reading all of them. I'm not sure that I'm going to purchase physical books for all of them, because some of them are kind of expensive. However, I have been told that they go on sale in January. Like the Spiffbo finalists usually go on sale. So maybe in January we'll do a big haul. Okay, so that puts us back up to 268 books, which again, it's a big scary number and I need to do better. But also, you know, it is what it is. We're going to try really hard to get back down to 200, but I don't know that that's going to happen this year. We'll see. We are going to do a really big unhaul later on in the year, but then obviously we have Christmas, and that's going to bring numbers back up. So maybe like my goal will be like to get below 200 before Christmas, before I count that number. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below what book you are most excited to see me read. And if you're not feeling chatty, you can put a book stack emoji. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, I do have my very own Patreon. The link for that is down below, as well as the links to my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.